So how do you detach in situations like that to feel, a sense
But
of
here's what happens sometimes is that while you do get that space away from the commitments you've signed up for, right? Whether it's your school meetings or your kids' meetings or Little League or whatever, do you actually spend that time at home chilling, enjoying your family?
quietly? Yeah,
Or do you be like, oh, the next activity, like the next act? I feel
yeah,
sometimes that happens.
yeah, yeah. The other
You're
extreme.
scared, you're so scared of the silence that
Yeah,
you're filling up your day with shit and noise.
yeah.
But the actual thing is, yeah, if you can go, you know what? That's it, school's done, you go, and then you come
Chill.
back from your little league. It's not that important, just 2 hours out of the house, you meet some other kids. Come back, let's spend like an hour barbecuing, spend 4 hours making dinner. But that would be lovely.
Yeah,
At the same time, if you're living with your joint family and you have boundaries set, saying, guys, okay, great, we do breakfast together, but evenings is our own.
yeah,
We have our own space. I mean, it's not always physically, possible to have a big enough house where everyone has a dining room for themselves. But there is also a charm to that, right? Because I grew up in a relatively joint family. Like I had my uncle and aunt living, my grandmom living. But I think you got to define what it doesn't have to be like, oh, meals have to be separate and sleeping has to be separate. You can find your own space to do things separately. But yeah, in both situations, you can be extremely caught up, or you can be
yeah,
extremely determined to find your own space,
yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Lovely to have you with us today. Nivi, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great. I'm doing amazingly well. Feeling like it's a new set of possibilities waiting for me out there. And that's one thing I want to talk about, right? When you make certain decisions in your life, there is this, let's take it back a step. There's this idea that you do things for your family, you do things for yourself individually. And of course, in India, the family is not just the mother, father, and the kid or kids, but it's also the in laws, the parents, your siblings, their family, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And sometimes you have a role to play, right? And in all aspects of life, right? You have these different roles you play with different people, and those set up certain expectations and boundaries. But how much can you actually do things just for yourself? Because
I
you
don't
really
think
can't.
it's too much. I don't
What?
think you can do too much
You can't, right?
for
You
yourself.
can't because
Like
it
I mean, with you're naming all these people, and it really feels like we
the
end up.
walls closing in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you have to, in some way, do things you don't want to do, or you have to kind of play this act, and less of it with some people. But there is an act in every aspect of life. Like you are going to upset someone, please someone, be dutiful to someone, and it's quite a balancing act, and not even a balancing act. It's an act where you come last.
You put yourself
Yeah.
last. No, actually, maybe in your situation and my situation, and we do that. But I feel like a lot of people put themselves first, and then they kind of separate themselves from the families and friends or whatever all these people are.
Yeah.
So they prioritize themselves
And
first.
that's typically what you see in America, right? Where once you leave the house, it's kind of like you are an individual and you meet another individual, and then you make a new beginning, a new family. And then it's almost like you revisit your old family as a different person.
Yeah.
And you do say, yeah, I have brothers over here, I have sisters over there, but very unlike India, where it's like you're constantly together.
Yeah.
Like, unless, of course, you live in a different city or something. But like I see, and the when we have friends in the US, and they make an effort and they come visit their family and all that, but they come all the way twice a year or once a year, because when they have kids especially, they have to kind of synchronize the holidays. But otherwise, they visit India more often than people there who are next state.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it does something to you. Like, in one way, I think it's the separation is great, to kind of find your own kind of bearings in your own family dynamic, what you want to set up. But does it make you more selfish? Because
I
you
don't
talk
know.
about this idea of living in the US and having a better standard of living, and oftentimes when we discuss this, but we'll never get this kind of lifestyle, right? And what do you define by this kind of lifestyle in India?
Yeah. Um, I don't know if, firstly, to answer that first question about being selfish, I feel like we've touched upon this a little bit maybe in previous episodes, but like the previous generation put up with a lot more and put themselves last always, and they were never first, and that was one extreme. But like this generation, there are people who are prioritizing themselves and their lives and needs and wants and desires before the next person, which is also nice, right? Like there needs to be that kind of balance. Like we're seeing really like what nuclear families like growing in India. Like there are more number of people living separately from their relatives and in-laws and all of that. So that's happening here in India, but like in the US, it almost, I don't know if it's like US because we both know it and that's why we're saying US, but like it's kind of lonely also. I feel lonely even if we're living too far away and just in our own little world. I feel a bit of loneliness. I'd rather be with people a lot more, and that involves putting in a lot more effort into making sure those relationships are cordial and kind of smooth. But it kind of gets a little boring, no, and dull. Imagine living in the suburbs of the US somewhere
I
like
think there are two
alone.
problems, I mean, there are problems with this, and there are also advantages to it, right? Because
Yeah.
I feel like at least the families I've seen, whether it's my friends in university or friends today with their own families, is that unless you really make an effort, you can be in your own little world, right? You can think the smallest problems are the biggest problems. You can make the most mundane things seem like the most interesting things. You can think like these activities are the most um, amazingly exciting things, right? Um, at the same time, like if you're too caught up in this entire network of everyone being involved in your life, you
Yeah.
being a part of everyone's, then it's almost like you're just going with the current, and you
Yeah.
can't really even take a step back and say, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? And why am I with this person? It's just that it's almost like my parents hung out with these people, so I'll hang out with their kids. And you
Yeah.
go, your kid goes to this school, so you hang out with those parents, and you really don't think about it until you take a step back. And I feel, if you want to use the current analogy, the current in the river thing, there you really have to make an effort to even jump into the river, to even feel the current, right?
Yeah.
But then there's an illusion of belonging to a certain thing when you go to like this little league or you go to this school meeting or thing.
Yeah.
So you really have to put yourself out there to
You know,
even, others you can just be on the bank of the river, not even
yeah.
seeing what the river is,
Which is
right?
also so nice, no?
I mean, you just said you find it lonely, but what I like about that is that you have time to discover what you want, right? I'm not saying the typical, because even the suburban, you call the suburban boring American life, right? That comes with pressures, right? With school, with soccer league, with this league. It seems like it's very, oh, you do it if you want to, but it's not really that much choice,
Yeah.
because you're seen by your colleagues of which address you live in or which school your kid goes to, which public, whatever, right? The area code and those things. But I feel the true freedom, like of doing what you want, is like these families where you see like they have this big sort of farm or whatever, like equivalent of a farm. They kind of raise chickens, like
Yeah,
I'm not,
what is it called?
what, like
They
a
call
ranch,
no, but what are they calling them nowadays? Like there are some
homestays
influencers,
kind of thing.
home
Not
something,
homestay, but like homegrown kind of families where,
something they call
yeah,
it.
they basically
Becoming very popular now.
yeah, so that's off the grid if they want to call it
But
that,
then
right?
that's what the controversy is, that they're not really off the grid because they're recording themselves all the
No,
time and
but they're
putting it
raising
on.
their own food. They're kind of growing
Yeah.
their own thing. See, because there is so much space in America. Like you see people replicating that here as well. But in America, literally, that was the frontier life, right? Like that's why you have guns, because you protect your family from people who are going to threaten your way of life. But here, there's no place to raise a gun because there's no space, right?
There's no place.
But
There's no place to breathe sometimes
yeah,
here.
so that's my point, right? Like how much do you involve, because we make an effort now not to kind of just get sucked in and flow with the current of what's happening around us,
It's
right?
hard though, but
It's hard because we get left out and we sometimes think about it, but after like kind of withdrawing from active social life,
socializing.
yeah, I mean, from just doing shows, right? Like you're just there at every show and people are like, oh, this, and it just becomes so kind of repetitive. Of course, not everyone does shows with this kind of lifestyle in bars or clubs, right? They do the theaters, whatever. But I'm just trying to understand, like, what is an appropriate amount of involvement, at the same time detachment, which gives you a chance to do things for yourself. Because, for
Can
some,
add in something?
yeah,
I feel like when you said that about the American life, right? Like there is space, and then you're part of these leagues and whatever communities to have that sense of community. I feel that there's so much separation that it almost feels like you can, when you're at your own space in your own home or whatever, you can actually breathe and you can actually think and you can do things at your own pace. Whereas if you're living, like, say, in a joint family or like with a lot of people, it gets so busy that you will get lost and you will go with that current. So how do you detach in situations like that to feel, a sense
but
of
here's what happens sometimes is that while you do get that space away from the commitments you've signed up for, right? Whether it's your school meetings or your kids' meetings or Little League or whatever, do you actually spend that time at home chilling, enjoying your family?
quietly? Yeah.
Or do you be like, oh, the next activity, like the next act? I feel
Yeah.
sometimes that happens.
Yeah, yeah, the other
You're
extreme.
scared, you're so scared of the silence that
Yeah.
you're filling up your day with shit and noise.
Yeah.
But the actual thing is, yeah, if you can go, you know what, that's it, school's done, you go, and then you come
Chill.
back from your Little League. It's not that important, just 2 hours out of the house, you meet some other kids, come back, let's spend like an hour barbecuing, spend 4 hours making dinner. But that would be lovely.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're living with your joint family and you have boundaries set, saying, guys, okay, great, we do breakfast together, but evenings is our own.
Yeah.
We have our own space. I mean, it's not always physically, possible to have a big enough house where everyone has a dining room for themselves. But there is also a charm to that, right? Because I grew up in a relatively joint family. Like, I had my uncle and aunt living, my grandmom living. But I think you got to define what it doesn't have to be like, oh, meals have to be separate and sleeping has to be separate. You can find your own space to do things separately. But yeah, in both situations, you can be extremely caught up, or you can be
Yeah.
extremely determined to find your own space,
Yeah. What if you had the choice to, and you do have the choice to live in the US or here now with Shasa, what would you feel like?
The the thing is, see, to live in the US, I think it would be great. I will have to push myself to do a lot more at home. In the sense, I'll have to be a lot more structured, right? Because here, I'm not just talking about making my bed or doing the laundry or something simple as that. I'm talking about keeping the home up to date, keeping a daily routine is a lot more structured over there, right? And also because I'll have to kind of use public transport if you're not there. It'll be a lot more planned. So I'll have to coordinate with like the local, what do you call them? Like they have these typical orientation mobility schools and kind of navigate. So I can go to the store on my own. Those kind of things, and
And the standard for all of that and the ability to do that is a
not even a
lot more
standard.
there, no?
It's not even a possibility here,
That's
right?
right.
So here you replace that with staff, right? If you can afford to hire a person to live in with you, or you have a driver if you can afford them, or you take cabs, whatever the ability is. So I think both have their thing here because I live at home. We have the ability to hire people to help us. I'm able to do different things. So I'm able to think, and it's an easier life, surprisingly saying that. So there it'll be different kinds of convenience, different kinds of freedom,
Yeah.
and different kinds of opportunities. But the base level of work will be a lot more for me because I won't be able to hire a full-time driver, won't be able to hire a full-time cook. So we'll have to do a lot. I'll have to do a lot more for myself, but I think that will kind of create new opportunities, a new sense of kind of responsibility, a sense of purpose, or a sense of even, you know what? It's a kind of different kind of fulfillment, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
wake up and say, make my coffee. You kind of wake up, and as a result, you figure out, okay, before coffee, I'm going to go sit and just enjoy whatever. If you have a porch, depending where we're living out, enjoy the.
Where do you want to live in the US, if at all?
I think maybe like the Northeast, like New England,
Maine.
Maine, Connecticut, um,
I've never been to Maine.
or proper South, like
Oh, God.
Alabama, or the thing is, as romantic as it sounds, I think I might not survive like in Montana or Idaho because
I don't
I
think
just
so.
imagine like one deer comes up, I'm a city boy, dude.
Yeah,
I'm not
me
going to,
too.
yeah, I
So
can't do
then
the
how do we
wilderness.
live in like a Maine or something? I
Maine is
mean,
not like one,
I know it's not, but it's still
you know,
it's not a
yeah,
city
see,
city. It's not
it
like
is.
San
I
Francisco
would never
or
live in San
yeah.
Francisco. I would never live in LA. I would never live in these Chicago type places because, dude, why? I'd rather live in Bangalore because I've got all the perks of a city here with all the help and and this is another thing, right? Our network here is so, um, it's such a nice network because through 2-3 degrees of separation, we know some of the coolest people, some of the most, um, people who've done such great stuff in their space. So why should we go live like second class citizens in a big city in America, right? So I don't want to do that. But at the same time, like for me, what's charming about America is whether it's like the beaches or beach towns, like these small islands, these small towns in New England, or they're just so lovely. So you don't have to be like gun owning with 15 cows or whatever it may be, like, or you have to worry about like wild animals coming onto your property or whatever. You can still live like in a little cottage and still be like 20 minutes outside New York.
I think it all sounds so
And grass is
ideal,
always greener. Yeah,
but
yeah.
then at the same time, like you said, we both, even I am a very city person. So I'm feeling like if we go and do that, even 1 week later, we'll be like, what do we do now? Because
Yeah,
it's not like we're the gardening sorts. We're not.
we
I mean,
could
of course,
be,
we
but
could
here's
be
the point:
maybe
we're
in
not the
some.
couple. Also, like I'm not the person who'll be like, you know what, hard day work, let's watch some Netflix and chill. I don't want that. But that's the thing, right? I don't know until I actually live. I've lived on campus. I've lived with my cousin. I stayed with them, babe, house sat, whatever. I've never, like, even if when I visited you in New York, it was your flat in the middle of what, 82nd Street, somewhere, right? Upper East Side. But I've never been in a situation where I'm like, okay, you know what? You have to take care of this home, like stock it up, clean it up, maintain it, and like make sure like the heater comes on during winter, make sure that this thing's running, the thermostat's running,
Yeah,
So
all those things.
all those
I
things,
have
and
a
I
feeling
don't know.
you're actually good with all those
I've
things.
never had a chance, so I don't know, and I don't want to
Yeah.
speculate. But yeah, maybe that gives you a sense of thing which you might enjoy,
Yeah.
like cleaning up this.
And also a lot of times, like if you compare those basic things of upkeep, right, of a house, it's so much easier to do it there than here. And
And
it
you know
also
what?
doesn't break down as much as it
We
does
don't
here.
take pride in those things because keeping your house together, keeping it clean, keeping it up to date, keeping it, a home which is functioning is a full thing.
Yeah, of course.
We
There's so
take it for
much.
granted over here, and then we're like, oh, the toilet's dirty. Like, then fucking do it yourself, right? But there it'll be a thing which will be interesting to explore. I don't know. Maybe in 6 months, I'm like, come screaming back to Bangalore, going, you know what, take care of me. But I'd love to explore that.
Yeah. Me too. I think it's nice to kind of go and do like a few months there. And
Yeah, because you know what? Because I'm in this space where I can work for a few hours or choose to work for a few hours. Of course, now living there will cost a lot more, so you'll have to work.
you
But
have to
might
earn in dollars.
exactly. So I might not be in a place with as much free time, but like I know, for instance, like there are a lot more golf courses. There are a lot more coaches over there who might be able to help. There may be a lot more exposure to blind golf, so I might be able to explore those things. But something as simple as spending 3 hours prepping a meal, just the three of us or whatever, right? We've never tried it. Who
Yeah.
knows? At the same time, if we enjoy a life like that, or we have a chance to experience that, maybe not 12 months of the year, but we say we do an Airbnb, like a cottage for 6 months, we'll appreciate this a lot more.
Yeah.
Because we have this, we take it for granted and start bitching and moaning and whining about how we have space, we don't get our space, like, that's how we sound. So I think if you have the chance, instead of just going and spending 6 weeks for like an all-inclusive trip where you're spoiled, which I think is fine as well. I think these kind of things where you are put in the thing where you have to, like, you know what, live and kind of soak in the place you're living in, not just be a tourist and come out of it,
Yeah. I think that'll be cool if we can do something like
Yeah.
that. But I do feel like a lot of people who going back to, whether people choose to live there or here, like here it is easier because of the people that we can have help us out in taking care of our house and doing all of those things, so you can focus on work or something else that you want to do or whatever
Yeah.
it is. But why do people like choose to live in the US, right? There is a standard of living that is much higher than it is here. And of course, they're earning a lot more money.
I think that's the primary reason. I think second thing, there's also a need to escape from a certain sense of what that they think that India represents, and also what they don't want in their life. They want this perceived idea of freedom, this perceived idea of a better way of living, a higher status, a more sense of
More, but
opportunities.
yeah, there
I'm saying there are
are.
various motivations. I'm not saying all of these. I'm saying one of it could be one person.
Yeah, because
But
there are more
yeah, but
opportunities
there's
there.
also this idea that when I go and come back, I'll be viewed as a more successful person. That's also one of the things. All these are changing, these are dynamic. But here's the thing, right?
But nowadays, a lot of people are going there. They want to make some money and come back here and then kind of chill.
Yeah, but the problem is also there's this idea of a certain prescribed American dream, right? Where you do this, you check all these boxes, and then you're seen as successful. And I don't know, each person has their own motivation, but you know, I feel you can be happy anywhere, you can be miserable anywhere. I think because we have such a lovely network over here, we have a certain sense of comfort, a certain sense of things being provided for us. As a result, we say, because this is done, I can do these things. Imagine if that wasn't there, you automatically, I think that's where resilience comes in, or this idea to adapt, right? Comes in is, if you can't have your meals prepared for you or be driven around, then you kind of do different things. So it's not like until you're put in that situation, you can't speculate.
Yeah.
So I think there is this idea of what if, and the grass is always green on the other side, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, if I lived here, it'd be lovely, Sunday at these beautiful wine country, whatever. I'm saying there's so many things, right?
But
Wherever,
there-
it could be Europe, it could be this, it could be anywhere. But I think I'm just appreciating where I am today. And if I do get the opportunity of going somewhere, like, when I visited my sister in Singapore, I was like, wow, wouldn't this be lovely, right? Because it's close enough to India. They have an option of getting help at home, like staff you can hire full time to live in. You can get certain services depending on how much money you have. You can hire a driver. You can go to schools, and it's one of the safest countries in the world. Having a child, that's a great benefit. Then I was like, yeah, until I live here, I wouldn't know, because maybe in a week I'm like, oh my God, it's the same 5 people you keep seeing again and again and again.
Yeah.
While from the outside, it's like it's got so many different kinds of cuisine. It's kind of a global hub. It's got such low taxes.
But you know what I love about this is that the ability for all of us to kind of think about where we want to live, and actually we can make that happen. Like the ability that people have nowadays, like in the last maybe 10 years or so, 15,
To a
20
few,
years.
that access is available to a few.
To a
But
few, but it's a lot more. Like even Anu, for example, like her husband has gone as a chef to New Zealand.
that's amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing, and she's going to follow him.
No, but at the same time,
so there
see-
is opportunity across the board, is what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
people are can dream like that, which is
See,
really
this
cool.
is again in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s. A lot of people, like our uncles and great uncles and grand aunts and all, they all went, right? They just left a situation in India and went to America, right? That's, you see their kids and their grandkids now in America being second or third generation Americans. And it keeps changing. India is a lot more, it's thriving a lot more than the 70s. There's a lot more opportunity. There's a lot more money coming into India. But again, a person leaving India today from, say, a smaller town or a Bangalore would, even compared to when I left in 2003, India is a different place. So the US is a different place again, right? So there are different motivations. But it is what did you say? I completely blanked out to the point you said.
Yeah, you're too caught up in your own head
not-
talking about whatever you want to talk about. Listen to me once in a while. I wanted to say that the friends that I have in the US right now are the ones that are choosing, and they enjoy their freedom and enjoy their work and enjoy their independence and self so much that when they come and visit your friends and family, that when they come and visit here, they're like, oh God, it's just too much. So you used to live here, you've grown up here, you know how it can get claustrophobic to live here. But then you go and experience that. Now I don't think they can come back and live with people anymore.
Maybe
so I
their
feel
families
like,
are crap over here.
no, I mean, I think it's across the board. Like just not having your space, whether they're nice people or not nice people or whatever it is.
No, but there's also this one thing, right? Do they run away from something?
I don't know if they're running away
Not
from
your
something.
friends,
but
generally. Do some people run? See, because I know some people run away from their situation. It is tough here. And that's why the lines in the US consulates are massive, right?
Yeah,
Because
they
they
just
just want
want
to
to
get
get
out.
out.
Yeah. I mean, it's so amazing to see what the power of the US visa is. And it's also so sad in some way when they get rejected. It's almost like their entire life has come crumbling around them. It's very,
See,
very sad.
I feel like
I
here,
mean, yeah.
yeah, it's not like even the kind of jobs that you have here and all that is such, sometimes the profiles are very boring.
It's boring,
So,
Nifs, for you.
not for me. I'm saying with even
You
if
can't.
you look at the fashion industry, if you're a fashion designer, you know where they get to work? They'll work in like these export houses where they have to go and design
Or some
the
shit
same
place
thing.
like Flipkart or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Whereas if they're in a different country, they have the option of working in other places.
I mean, they might work for a company which outsources to Flipkart. So, like, yeah, I earn in dollars. I'm just saying, yeah, could be true.
No, I'm saying like there is so much more that you can do. We still are a country that provides these
Of course, we're still,
services
first of all,
down in
underdeveloped
the, yeah,
country.
in the
People who
supply
are like,
chain.
how dare you? We
So
are.
it
There's
is,
still sewage on our roads. We can't be calling ourselves a developed country or developing
yeah,
when there's sewage, when 90% of people don't have water and this thing. You can say, oh yeah, but did you see the Golden Quadrilateral, whatever, some highway they built? Yeah, that's one road, dude.
yeah.
Get your ass out of your
Yeah,
head,
so
you know?
like people, it's rightfully so, people who are waiting in line to leave and go to
Yeah.
another country
See, the thing is, in America, you need money to live well, but the base standard is a
is
lot higher.
exactly,
Now,
yeah,
is there poverty there? Of course. Is it the
yeah,
best country? By no means. Is
yeah,
there a certain amount of disparity? Of course. Is there
yeah,
racism? Of course. There are a lot of negatives. But my point is, if I make, I don't know how much, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, there's dignity of life, right? I can walk down the footpath on my own with my cane or a guide dog,
exactly,
go there. There are these options. Of course, the more money
yeah,
you have, you can get, instead of a regular guide dog, you can get a guide dog with, like, a grill. You can get like with diamond studs, whatever. But there's a basic access to it. Now, is everything
yeah,
right with the health? I don't know. I don't want to get into that.
yeah,
But with certain countries I've gone to, there is a basic amount of safety. Of course, gun shootings in schools, yeah. Gun shootings, yeah. School shootings, yeah, that happens. Gun shootings, not bow and arrow shootings. But I feel there is a certain amount that you can take for granted, which we aren't at right now in India. There are a lot of benefits about India as well, right? There is a sense of, you feel this is your home, you're a first class citizen. But what does that mean to be first class citizen in a
yeah,
third world country? This friend actually
exactly.
said, his dad told him before, he's like, son, do you want to be a first class citizen in a third world country or a third class citizen in a first world country?
Oh
So it's a
God.
choice you have to make and live with it.
I mean, I want first class citizen.
You want first class in a first class. You want all the way first class. You want to fly first class. You want to go there in the first class lounge. You are different. You're a princess who never grew up on the streets, remember?
I'm not a princess.
Yeah.
I
And a
want to
bit.
live a life of a princess.
Okay. This is your castle. You get whatever you want.
Pretty much.
So anyway, I think this is something which again is a personal choice. It's a choice you make
Yeah.
with your husband or your wife. But there are some red flags, like especially more recently in the US with a lot of intolerance. Again, you might say it's in the media, but there are instances, right?
Yeah.
And I've never experienced racism in the US personally. Met some annoying guys who are just annoying. They could be as annoying if they were brown or whatever color they were, right? They were just bad tempered people. But I'm not desperate to go and live in America. I'm not desperate to be like, oh my God, America, it's America or nothing, But I've seen it.
I think,
I
yeah.
have friends there. They're great people. I've seen the good people there. I've seen the woke people there. I've seen the gun owners there. And I think they're good people in all those groups. But what your motivation is to go live in a place, or my motivation, your motivation, has to be discussed, and we go make peace with that decision.
Yeah.
And there's no blanket rule of you must go to America if you check these boxes, or stay in India if you check these. You can, I think that's another thing, right? Each, go on.
I think
That's in this episode. You just go, that's
yeah, I've been trying to say something or the other.
Michael Jackson. Shimon.
No, what was I going to say?
This is the problem.
If I don't say it fast enough, then you'll like jump in and bite my head off.
I don't jump in. I'm just going on.
Yeah.
I'm the river, the current. You're just like that fish trying to jump into the river.
No, that.
Why would a fish jump in, first of all? The bear.
No, I think what I was trying to say is that, yeah, it is a choice and it's finally up to you to decide what you want, because everybody around you somehow feels like they can here in India somehow tells you that you should do a thing a certain way, or you should want this, or you must have this. Like those kind of things happens a lot more here, whereas in the US or wherever else,
They could care two
nobody,
shits about
yeah,
that.
they
Yeah.
don't even look at you twice.
Yeah.
In fact, to the point where,
Have a good day. That's it.
yeah,
Have
that's
a nice
it.
day. Basically,
Yeah.
it's like, fuck off. I don't care about you.
Yeah, you do whatever you
But
want.
best is they'll say that there. Here you meet some uncle going, yeah, I'm relocating to California. I know my friend's sister's daughter in California. Like, I'm trying to get away with that.
Yeah.
But don't you love the other Indians who go away and only meet other Indians and only hang out with Indians, and they only watch Bollywood movies, or they only watch Kannada movies, or they only eat at Sarvana Bhavan, they only eat Indian food. It's like, I don't know if anything's wrong about it. Why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you like to check out?
Explore
Wouldn't you like to
their
put your toe in the
culture.
water and say,
Yeah.
ooh, they almost look at a white person going, my God. Like,
What are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? Like, is it what you look like? I saw you on the news and you looked a lot more aggressive,
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I remember once in Wales, when I was living at the university, when I was in university I had one Sri Lankan, he's a Sri Lankan, British citizen of Sri Lankan descent. Then I had a Welsh guy and two guys from England. Those two, all three were white. And I remember this one guy I met in the International Union. He's, I think, again, British-born, Indian origin. And he goes, man, you're living with these Kauras. Why don't you come live with us? We have a house full of Indians. I'm like, first of all, crazy, right? Like, he thought I was like being held against my will. So it's very strange what goes on. We just think it's like one direction against certain colors. It's the way of thinking is very small town, even in a lot of people living there.
Yeah.
We say only small town things are these guys who live in these coal mine towns and own guns and they have mullets. The Indians who live there, or the Asians or whatever group, are as small-minded. Did you ever hear about the BMW concept?
No.
In certain Indian communities in the US? No. So their daughters can't marry BMWs.
Means?
Blacks, Muslims or whites.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Anyway.
I've lovely, you hear these things. The other one is like you hear about a guy who's called his mother to visit him in the US, or a girl calling her mother because they're IAS officer, right? Indian IAS service. They go there, that's it. 6 months, they change diapers, take care. They can't get out of the house because they can't drive. Yeah. They rely on their kids. So these things, obviously it's stupid and it's a stupid stereotype. But isn't it shocking when you hear the BMW thing? It's a reality though in many communities. Though.
Yeah, but now it's feeling like, what? Maybe 10 years ago I would have been
this is like as recent as 6 years back, 5-6 years back. There are some people who do not want their kids to marry outside. And I've heard like the kids born there almost like are they so lost in some way? And again, by no means am I generalizing that all American born Indians are like this. Just the people you hear examples of, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I want to re-embrace my Indianness.
Yeah.
And they like sit there and they do every ritual, they do every puja. I'm like, nothing wrong with doing a puja, dude. But don't do it just for symbolism, right?
Yeah. From a culture point of view though, like I feel now that, we're with Ikipi, we're focusing a lot on the American market.
Plug in your brand, okay?
It's not a plug-in. I'm telling you my experience.
Right.
Gosh. You have to understand the customer and how they think and how they work. And then we're working with people who run companies there, right? The experience of doing that is so much more enjoyable. Like after every meeting I've had with like the marketing guys there, it's like, wow, they get it immediately. They know what they're supposed to do, and they meet their targets and they meet their goals without too much fluff. They don't go back and forth with things. So like the work culture as well.
Ethics are a lot more. Yeah.
It's so much more enjoyable to work with people there than work with people
here.
Here.
Have a sense of entitlement. Like because they got their undergrad or whatever, they're like, yeah, pay me.
No, and then they're like always some excuse
we
or the
cut
other.
corners, let's be honest.
Yeah, we cut corners.
Indians
but
love
not,
cutting corners. Yeah.
I feel like it's not...
I mean, we're Indian, we can say it, no?
Yeah, but I feel like there is that amount of like not taking ownership or responsibility of like work and things like that. They'll blame it on something else. Oh no, the algorithm is like this or some rubbish like that. Whereas these guys, how are they able to just
I love when they blame it on anxiety, right? Like, I'd love to work, but I'm just too anxious. And you can't say anything now. But do you think a hybrid model of having a mix of like India and because we're Indian, or if you're Korean and European, I think this is what globalization truly is, right? Like where you can borrow certain cultural things like
If
the
you're
work
open
ethic.
to it,
Open
yeah.
to it. You have to, I mean, if you're open to it, otherwise nothing's going to work. If you can have the values that you really appreciate, which is
Yeah,
friendship and family and not being separated in the
yeah,
boondogs just for the cookie cutter suburban life. But at the same time, you have friends from across the world. You kind of also have, you take work ethics from certain cultures which believe in that, or you take certain lifestyle ethics, or like, to not over stress and only be competitive. Can't we do that? Isn't that what it means to absorb the
yeah.
world?
And I feel like that's what I want from my
Yeah,
life. Like
let's
to
do
be
that.
able to appreciate different cultures for who they are and what they bring to the table, and you pick and choose what you want
Yeah,
for
when
your life.
we meets ikigai.
Live a great life.
Yeah, I think on that note, do you want to ask them to involve themselves and share?
You
They
could
never seem to
have.
share their thoughts. They're selfish bastards. They keep
Or
hearing
just
us.
share
Yeah,
it with people. No,
that's
first.
all. Yeah, selfish buggers. They're just like, oh, you're so funny. And then do something about it, guys.
Help us reach more
Yeah, do a
people.
right click share if you're not using a Mac. I mean, I don't know
Just
how to use a
don't spell
Windows
it out,
computer.
no?
Yeah.
Just tell them to
Basically,
share.
do the thing. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, send it to people who you think are going to be engaged by this. Especially send it to people who are going to be pissed off. People sitting in Sacramento right now, they went to Costco and they got some stuff.
But we would love to know what
Yeah.
your choices are in life. That would, like, if you had the choice to live somewhere else or here, what would you choose?
Yeah.
Why? I think it's always interesting to know how people choose to live, and we'd love to have
And
this
why you choose to
conversation.
live like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, do join us in the conversations in the comments below.
Thank you for listening.
Wow, that was very formal. Goodbye.